Hello, welcome back. Welcome back to me. I've been gone for a while, but I mean, it's December. It's the holiday season. People are planning their trips and visiting family and all that good stuff, which is where I have been and what I've been up to. It's been fun. It's good, but I am back, and I know today is Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas. Um, so yeah, of course, spend time with family, make sure your loved ones and friends and stuff. However, however, as you can see on screen, Mr. Jorge Riviera Heranas, I can't pronounce the last name to save my life, um, has planned a lovely stream for us. The Ithaca Saga comes out today. The live stream is going to come out today in about 2 hours or a little under 2 hours. So I just wanted to catch up, maybe watch some videos. This is going to be a lot less structured than my usual streams, which are already very unstructured. So yeah, it's just going to be more or less laid back. We'll watch some videos, we'll catch up on some news, we'll play some games. Speaking of games, what I've spent my time mostly on is three games. Three games have taken up most of my time. I have put my personal playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3 on pause once again, which really sucks. I've been really enjoying that game. It's a really, really well made game. But I've been on Fortnite. The new season looks great. I've been on Marvel Rivals. Playing that with friends is a lot of fun. I am horrible at it, but I do still enjoy it. And I did end up getting the battle pass, so I want to make sure to make use of it. And Rainbow Six Siege has now become cross-platform, so a lot of my friends that have been playing Rainbow Six and wanting to play with me, that were on console, now we can play all together, and it's a lot of fun. For the time being, I'll leave this tab open, just so when the time comes, when it is time for that live streams to start, I'll hop on there and we can watch it together and react to the Ithaca Saga. Yes, it has been a very long journey with Epic. It has been wonderful. I have so many of the songs. I love nearly every single song in the entire musical. This musical got me really into musicals. I think after watching Hamilton is when I started. Sorry, Hamilton. After watching Epic is when I went to go watch Hamilton, and I loved that. I ended up watching the Heathers musical. I'll be honest, not the biggest fan of the Heathers musical. I did make sure to watch the Heathers movie beforehand, which I enjoyed more. Even though, of course, it is very clearly a product of its time. I still did like it. But yeah, Epic is what started it for me, and the animations always look amazing. The story writing is fantastic. The story that it's adapting is great. The all the talented artists working on it, they've done a fantastic job. Look at all this cover art; they look amazing. All the singers, they sound great. Jorge writing all of these songs and or organizing all of this is incredibly impressive, and you know props to him for sure. Yeah, yeah. But enough fangirling about Epic. We are going to watch some videos, get to catch up on the news a little bit. So it's going to be a bit of a downer, most probably. But after that, we'll catch up with Epic the Musical or play some games or whatever. Once the Ithaca Saga starts up, I will make sure to jump onto there. Uh, I have to say, for this saga, there is one song that I have been waiting for a very long time, and that's the challenge. And we're going to be starting off with it. It's going to kick off this saga, so I know it's going to be great. But yeah, I want to make sure, obviously, we're there for that. I want to make sure, it sounds good, it looks good. I want to make sure the stream is going well. Um, what else? Anything else to cover? Anything else to say? Does not seem like it. Alrighty, let's check out some of the news. If you have not heard somehow, Luigi Mangione, my man Luigi. Luigi deserves to be freed. If you do not know the story, if somehow you've been living under a rock. Luigi Mangione is accused of. Okay, I know this is a hard pivot, but he is accused of shooting the healthcare, United Healthcare CEO in New York, public reaction has been, you know, a bit shocking, I guess, to say the least. People have been very supportive of Luigi. They understand his reasons for it. They have similar experiences, being denied claims, and they see the CEO as somebody who profited off of the death of their, family and loved ones, or not paying out, people that have been paying large sums of money into their health insurance. So people are very torn about this. There's a huge generational divide, I suppose, and I would say more importantly, more clearly than a generational divide, a wealth divide. Younger people, poorer people tend to understand Luigi's point, the general public. But when some people are more rich and a little out of touch, Ben Shapiro, they tend to relate more to the CEO than the person who has been hurt by the CEO. Anyway, let's watch Hassan's coverage of this is, I'm assuming, when Luigi pled not guilty.
I just want to start off our Luigi Mangione coverage before we dive into Luigi Mangione's first court appearance in New York. I just want to show you what the news media is saying. Here is New York Post. Now, as you guys know, New York Post is a dish rag. They write the worst articles of all time. That's their job. This is what they do. But also, in the process of writing the worst articles of all time, they sometimes end up writing really funny headlines. Okay? I'm going to read this out. Luigi Mangione oddly wears matching outfit with his lawyer in New York City court hearing, to his sick fans' delight.
I mean, look, okay, fine. He's wearing that's a very weird article to write, Mr. Matt Troutman. This came out yesterday. To his sick fans' delight. It's just a fucking outfit. Like, why are you okay?
It's sick. His fans. His sick fans' delight. It's sick. Disgusting. Yeah, I guess we're a bunch of sick fans. We're crazy.
Okay, I'm not liking this voice out of Hassan, but oh, that face. I want this on my thumbnail so bad. But oh well. I've never stressed about the thumbnails. I've always let YouTube do its own thing. I mean, yeah, I'm not a big fan of the voice, but yeah, I get what he's saying. Like, are you serious?
Easy. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Also, here's
Are his fans sick because they were denied healthcare coverage? Is that what happened?
here's what happened. I guess they were twinning.
Okay, I thought they would just be wearing like regular suits, but I mean, like this is a very normal outfit.
I don't know how that occurred. I don't know how that happened, but
like I can see this happening.
New York Post writes headlines, not articles. Well, why write an article when the headline can say it all?
Dude, how can we be wearing the same outfit? You saw me leave the apartment this morning.
I saw you put it on. I thought it looked nice.
I am sick and a fan. Yeah. By sick, they mean that we've had denied claims. Yes.
Okay.
That's what that means. Okay. Anyway, let's get into it. Breaking news. Luigi Mangione pleads not guilty in a New York court. And obviously, everyone's freaking the fuck out. Luigi Mangione, as you guys know, I'm going long on this. This is massive. This is huge. There's a lot of misinfo spreading on this as well. Luigi Mangione was seen wearing a $1,000 Maison Margiela.
It's a sweater. Why is it $1,000? It's a fucking sweater. It's a red sweater. It looks normal.
Sweater at the Manhattan Criminal Court in New York. First and foremost, what if he was wearing that? What?
Also fair. Yeah, I don't think it should matter, but I don't think a sweater should ever cost that much.
What? Is it illegal? Is it illegal to look good? Maison Margiela has incredible pieces. Some of them are really big misses. Some of them are hits. Who cares? Maybe he likes fashion. Now, of course, that's not the case. He wasn't wearing the Margiela burgundy washed lamb's wool sweater, which, by the way, isn't $1,000. As you can see, even on Essence, it is $751 because it's 26% off. So
Got him.
shut the fuck up. Fake news double time. Okay. And secondly, the information provided is false. Luigi isn't wearing a washed lamb's wool sweater from Bordeaux from Maison Margiela. As pointed out by journalists such as Antonio Padilla, he is wearing the washable merino crewneck sweater in Burgundy Royale from Nordstrom. But like, why are we pocket watching this man? I don't understand it. What is this?
This is such a weird response to this. Like, okay, I mean, already with the way I framed it at the beginning, talking about, like, this whole haves versus have-nots, or the rich versus the poor, or whatever the fuck. It's a bit weird to be like, oh, okay, yeah, no, he also has money. Like, yeah, okay, I get that, but he's 26. Like, you get what I mean? Like, he's not some corrupt CEO that took advantage of people to get where he is in life. He was born into this family. I don't know what, his family did. You get what I mean? Like, what are we talking about here? His actions, quite clearly, speak for themselves. Or his alleged actions.
Like, this is not an argument, okay? This is not. Anyway, I don't even think that account was trying to hit him. Bro got on the I'm a patsy fit. Okay, first of all, he looks good. I don't know why people are shitting on him.
Who gets arrested and looks this good?
I don't know why people are shitting on him. I like the sartorial.
I don't know why I'm seeing a lot of Nick Jonas here.
Choice. He looks like a nice.
Hold on. Am I losing it? Let me see Nick Jonas with curly hair. Does Nick Jonas not have curly hair? Did I always think Nick had curly hair and he never had curly hair? God, these AI is horrible. AI is insane. Is this not the same guy? It's not the same guy. Not even a little bit. That is not even close. What am I talking about? Is this closer? Cool. Whatever. Anyway.
Handsome young lad. Okay.
True.
Which he is. He's a nice, handsome young lad. And also he's innocent. And I think they should just base.
Yeah, of course he's innocent. I was there with him. We were I saw him rescuing a kitten from a tree. I was there. Which was really impressive because his back hurts a lot through it, but he pushed through.
Let him go. Okay. Just going to point that out. They should let him go because innocent until proven guilty means he's innocent. He hasn't been proven guilty yet. He did nothing wrong. You don't know he did that. He's innocent. He would never do that. I know Luigi. Free Luigi. He's not the type of guy. He wouldn't even hurt a fly. Okay.
How do you plead this indictment, sir? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Look at the way he said that. That's right. If he was guilty, he would have said it. If he was guilty, he would have said it.
Exactly. Verdict over. It's done. Checkmate.
Also, why are there 4 cops behind him like this? Let me replay that. Let's replay.
I mean, they want to make him look as dangerous as possible. They want to make him as uncomfortable as possible. So he's more likely to say or do something that, they can use against him. And at the same time, they want people to be watching and be like, oh, look at this crazy monster. We have the Joker in custody here.
Play that. Let's replay that. Case closed.
In the first degree and other related charges. How do you plead this indictment, sir? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Yeah, no, he's not guilty. He said it right there. Not guilty. Also, what has happened? Is this normal? Am I, maybe I'm not aware of this, but like, is this normal? I feel like they're going to put the Hannibal Lecter thing on his head. You know what I mean? Like every single time I see this motherfucker He is surrounded by cops. Like, he is a super villain, dude. Why are there 4 cops on him? Do they think that he's just like a John Wick style guy? Like, he's just gonna use the pen to execute people in the courtroom? Like, what the fuck is going on? This man, he can turn everything in his vicinity into a weapon. There are CEOs in this room as well. If there is a CEO anywhere near him, he will kill them. Like, I don't understand. Like, actually, what do you think about his lawyers? With lawyers, with defense attorneys, the bigger the piece of shit they are, the better it is. And through transitive property, like, her husband is Diddy's lawyer. So automatically I assume that this is a family of like piece of shit defense attorneys. So I'm always on board. You know what I mean? For defense, you have to be a scumbag. Okay. And I think like, considering.
I mean, I don't know much about law. So I can't really comment on this, but I mean, I guess it makes sense. You know, for prosecution, you want the evidence to speak for itself. You want to have the right evidence. For defense, you want to, yeah, you want to. It doesn't matter whether or not you're guilty or innocent. You want to get that not guilty plea. You know, you don't even have to be not innocent. You don't have to be innocent. You have to just not be guilty, which you can get as technical as possible and get into people's intentions. And it's okay. I can see why a defense attorney would have to be a piece of shit.
That her husband is literally Diddy's lawyer, I would assume that they're, you know, I would assume that she's also a scumbag too. So that's a good thing. It's a benefit. Isn't the judge's husband a former Pfizer executive?
Well, that shouldn't be okay, right? Shouldn't that be like a conflict of interest?
Yeah, I have heard that the judge is presiding over the Luigi Mangione case is married to a former Pfizer executive. More about the judge here. It is a unique situation. In this case, the prosecutors might be bigger scumbags. Yeah, but Alvin Bragg is an incompetent scumbag, it seems. So, you know, we'll see what happens. But you really
No, but like let's also be realistic. He is going to get like, or they're gonna do their best to make an example out of him. They don't want people to think that this is okay. They don't want people to think that hey, you can do crimes. You can go kill people. Clearly, the U.S. doesn't have an issue with that. Gun violence is everywhere. You know, you can shoot up a school. You can shoot up a place of worship. You can shoot up, children or low-wage workers or bystanders. But you don't shoot up the CEOs. Not the CEOs, guys. There has to be a line. So they're gonna try to make an example out of him.
really do want a defense attorney to be a piece of shit, like a real slime bag. You know what I mean? You want that.
So I can't see him getting off I can't see jury nullification being a thing where the jury is just like, hey, no, we don't care. Like, just no, he's not guilty. Like, this should not be wrong what he did. I don't see that happening. Even though I'd like that to be the case, but I really don't think so. I imagine they're going to handpick the jury to find the over 60 people that are going to the over 60 CEOs that are going to be like, no, I can. What that guy did was completely unacceptable, and there's no reason for it and no understanding for it whatsoever. And the issue is with him, not with the actual healthcare system or capitalism at large. I don't know. I feel like they're gonna handicap him at every turn. So I can't see this ending well for Luigi. I imagine they'll try to give him life in prison. If they can, maybe fucking I have no idea. I'm just speculating here. But I really, really cannot imagine it going even remotely well. I imagine they'll do their best. Right now, they're trying to throw terrorism charges at him. Already ridiculous.
Get him off on technicalities, whatever it takes. You know what I mean?
Your Honor, we have a copy of the indictment, notice of immigration consequences, as well as rap sheet. I believe the court has it. We give the court an extra copy and one to counsel. Does the court wish that we be heard with respect to bail?
There's also some good points that Luigi's lawyer brought up as well, the defense attorney on this case, like in terms of all of these like extraneous circumstances, like the mayor of New York using the perp walk as a political opportunity to basically declare him a terrorist.
Isn't Eric Adams on trial? Like for corruption or something? What the fuck is he doing?
Before the trial is over, like it's crazy. Anyway, we'll see.
As we understand that we have primary jurisdiction, and we have been informed by the U.S. Attorney that they intend on allowing us to try our case first. So with respect to whatever goes on there, as the party with primary jurisdiction, the trial and the sentencing will take place here prior to anything that takes place in the federal system.
Yeah.
Sorry. Do the police not have to shave in New York? Or in the US? Because I feel like these beards, I mean, this one looks more or less okay. Like it seems kind of under control. This chin thing and this thing's all over the place. I mean, you're good, bud. I don't know. I don't think it should be necessary for people to shave. I don't think your beard is going to get in the way of your work. I just mean, like, I feel like this is something they would care about. Sorry.
Here prior to anything that takes place in the federal system.
Yeah, the burden of proof is also on the prosecution, you mean, rather than the defense. The prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he did the crime, and all the media has been doing is working to undermine that. Yeah, they're basically setting it up so that like everyone that's in that jury already has a well-established bias against our boy Luigi Mangione, which will already happen. That bias is already baked in because he's Italian, and we all know Italians are not white. You're supposed to be judged by a jury of your peers, okay? And Luigi Mangione stands alone in American society, peerless. Who amongst us, mere mortals,
Peerless,
could ever actually match up and be a peer to the likes of Luigi Mangione?
It says that we're going to return the defendant to federal custody. So I think that would be step two. I do think that logically, as the party with primary jurisdiction, the custody should be here. But I asked the court, in light of the court signing the writ indicating that we would return him to federal custody, that be done at a later time.
I'm not gonna lie, even this many cops on a person who's like not a risk to literally anyone is already massaging public sentiment in general, because it's like you're making it seem as though he is this like devastating serial killer. You know what I mean? Like this motherfucker killed one CEO allegedly. We don't even know. Okay, we don't even know.
I mean, I don't think he did. Again, he wasn't there. We were hanging out together.
Know if he did it. We don't even know if he's guilty. But like, even then, I understand why you would have this many cops on, like, I don't know, like a incredibly violent serial killer or some shit, right? Like, I get it. Sometimes you're worried that, like, especially if you have like a sociopathic, bloodthirsty criminal or whatever, you might need to do that in an effort to make sure that they can be apprehended if they step out of line or if they do something crazy or whatever. But like, this is not the case. Like, you can't do that. And I feel like the defense is already heightening that juxtaposition, heightening that contradiction here by putting him in a nice little merino wool sweater with a shirt underneath it. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like a handsome young white boy. So you can't really do that. It would be much harder to play to the crowd and showcase that this is a bright-eyed young boy with his future ahead of him.
I mean, upper middle class, well-educated, well-read, valedictorian. I mean, I think he's doing fine. I think he should definitely appeal to those categories, I suppose.
If there's like pre-existing biases, but you can't really do that for him. He's just a chill guy, you know?
Yes, Your Honor. We'd like to make a record, if that's okay with Your Honor. First, we'd request immediate, expedited discovery in this case. The people have had this case for about almost 3 weeks, and that's more than enough time to gather as much information as they can give to us, especially now that we have two proceedings that we have to answer to, one of them being death eligible. So we are requesting that we get immediate discovery of the New York City Police Department and FBI and federal and state documents. And the second thing I want to make a record of, Your Honor, is I'm very concerned about my client's right to a fair trial in this case. He's being prejudiced by some statements that are being made by government officials. Like every other defendant, he is entitled to a presumption of innocence. But unfortunately, the way this has been handled so far, his rights are being violated. And as you know, Your Honor, there's a wealth of case law guaranteeing his right to a fair trial, but none of the safeguards have been put in place yet here. In fact, it's just the opposite of what's been happening. He's a young man, and he is being treated like a human ping pong ball between two warring jurisdictions here. These federal and state prosecutors are coordinating with one another, but at the expense of him. They have conflicting theories in their indictments, and they are literally treating him like he...
Cook them. She's right. They are massaging the public's opinion on her client. This dog and pony show cannot go on. Every goddamn American has a right to a fair and free trial in this country. Let him go. Let him go. Mistrial. I'm calling it. I am declaring it a mistrial right now. This is a kangaroo court.
He is like some sort of political fodder, like some sort of spectacle. He was on display for everyone to see in the biggest staged perp walk I've ever seen in my career. It was absolutely unnecessary. He's been cooperative with law enforcement. He had been in custody for over a week. He waived extradition. He was cooperative at all accounts. There was no reason for the NYPD and everybody to have these big assault rifles that, frankly, I had no idea was in their arsenal. And to have all of these, the press there, the media there, it was like.
I mean, they did a great job, acting like big tough guys and showing how good they are at their job when, they already had him sitting there waiting for them with all the evidence just sitting in a backpack, apparently. Yeah, they were very comfortable to take all credit for that and just, walk him down as, the criminal that they apprehended or whatever. But when they were on the hunt, they had no leads. They had no idea what the fuck they were doing. They were incompetent as shit.
Perfectly choreographed. And what was the New York City mayor doing at this press conference, Your Honor? That just made it utterly political. And as Your Honor knows...
What's ironic, of course, is that, the New York City mayor already guilty. The New York City mayor. I mean, actually, I don't know. Did his trial go through already? No. He's still being, I think he's indicted. He was already indicted. Luigi Mangione hasn't even been indicted yet at that point. He hasn't even fucking pled not guilty. And he is dead to rights. He is guilty. He is guilty as fuck. Okay, I'll say it. He's guilty.
He's talking about Eric Adams here, obviously. Not the free, innocent man, Luigi. Not the unfairly tried, clearly innocent man, Luigi Mangione.
Luigi? We don't know. We don't know if he is.
I do. I know that he is. I don't know if that's the outcome that the trial is going to come to, but I do know that he is.
Lauro v. Charles, the Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, has held it to be clearly established that the staged...
Because like Hasan said earlier, it is innocent until proven guilty. Has he been proven guilty? No, he's innocent. Full stop.
Perp walks to the media unrelated to a legitimate law enforcement objective is unconstitutional, and I submit there was zero law enforcement objective to do that sort of perp walk. There's absolutely no need for that whatsoever, and frankly, Your Honor, the mayor should know more than anyone of the presumption of innocence that he too is afforded.
Call him.
Got him.
Call him out. Call him out. Call his criminal out.
Own issues, and frankly, I submit that he was just trying to detract from those issues by making a spectacle of Mr. Mangione, and there are consequences to this. He has a right to a fair trial, and and I just want to put on the record statements that the mayor made publicly about my client. Nothing saying alleged, for example. And he said, I wanted to send a strong message with the police commissioner that we're leading from the front. I'm not going to just allow him to come into our city. I wanted to look him in the eye and state, you carried out this terrorist act in my city, the city of New York that I love. And he wanted to show symbolism.
I will say this again. The word terrorist is fucking bullshit. You just use it against the enemies of, usually the US, but I mean the enemies of whatever the powers that be, or whoever is in charge currently is. They will levy that accusation against anyone because it's so useful. It's so easy. You just call someone a terrorist and it's over. You disregard everything they have to say. You could call anyone a terrorist. Nelson Mandela has been on the US the terrorist list till 2008. I'm just saying, being, the designation of terrorist has lost all sort of value to me, because if it just means enemy of the powerful, then okay, cool, whatever. You've really made very little, there's very little value to that distinction now.
Your Honor, he's not a symbol. He's somebody who is afforded the right to a fair trial. He's innocent until proven guilty. And the mayor was talking to jurors, future potential jurors that elected him. Those are the people that elected.
Yeah. Also, even the cops behind him are maintaining this charade. The notion that he is like a extra scary criminal. I'm willing to bet they're gonna not even let him wear like casual clothes later down the line too, once he's like in prison. I don't know how it works behind the scenes in New York though. Like, I don't know if there are rules and restrictions and regulations around it, but I do think that Luigi Mangione's judge being married to a former healthcare executive kind of creates some semblance of a conflict of interest. Like, obviously judges themselves can still be impartial in this circumstance, but I don't know. But yeah, the judge in the Luigi Mangione case is married to a former healthcare executive. Pretrial judge in the case involving the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson owns millions in stock, including pharma and healthcare. Magistrate Judge Catherine H. Parker, who's overseeing the pretrial hearings for Luigi Mangione, is married to a former Pfizer executive and holds hundreds of thousands of dollars in stock, including in healthcare companies and pharmaceutical companies, according to her 2023 financial disclosures. The judge's ties to the healthcare business are a stark reminder of how pervasive the for-profit industry is in American life, a point made by Mangione himself. Parker's husband, Brett Parker, left Pfizer in 2010, where he served as a vice president and assistant general counsel after holding the same titles at Wyeth, a pharmaceutical manufacturer purchased by Pfizer. According to Parker's disclosures, her husband Brett still collects a pension from his time at Pfizer in the form of a Senior Executive Retirement Plan, or SERP. Now, this is just a
I don't want to be a dick, but his name's Brett. Like, you're not a nice guy, Brett. You're kind of a douche. Just the name. Not specifically this Brett, but Brett in general. If your name is Brett, I'm very sorry, but it's just the hand you've been dealt.
Pre-trial judge, but even then, I declare mistrial over conflict of interest. This is a mockery of our wonderful legal institutions. The judge must recuse herself.
That he is talking to and calling this man a terrorist. So, Your Honor, I just want to make a record of this and put everyone on notice that this has to stop. And my client is entitled to a fair trial and the presumption of innocence. And we're going to fight these charges, whether it's in the state or federal, to the fullest extent. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Well, as you know, I have very little control of what happens outside of this courtroom. But I can guarantee you, as I guarantee every defendant comes through these doors, that the defendant will receive a fair trial. And we will carefully select the jury if that time comes, or when that time comes. But yes, we should expedite discovery.
Yeah, this is also something pretty insane. Like, yeah, I like the idea of saying, hey, yeah, we're gonna guarantee that you get a free and fair trial. I cannot say I believe that. I can't. Are you kidding? They have so much to gain from hurting him, and they have so much to lose from letting him free. it's not fair structurally, like already, like either if he's supposed to be, which this representative of fighting against these institutions or these structures, these institutions and structures are not going to be friendly to him. It just makes sense. So I can't imagine he's gonna get a free or a fair free or fair elections of a fair trial. I mean, I want to say free and fair as well, as free from the interference, which again I can't imagine that it is. You have the judge married to a former healthcare executive. You have that they have financial interests into supporting these healthcare companies, and that's the judge. That's supposed to be the most impartial person there.
Your Honor, the discovery in this case is voluminous, to say the least. I have never seen a case.
Oh, shut up, voluminous. Okay. Oh, we got a lot of evidence. Oh, volumes of evidence. No, you don't. Shut up, bozo. You don't got no evidence. You don't got no evidence. Free my man.
Case with such volume of evidence, aside from the issue of the quality of the evidence. And I suggest to counsel, because we have a discovery portal, but given how much evidence there is against this defendant, it would be smarter if counsel could provide us with a 2 terabyte external drive rather than rely on the crashing of the portal. With respect to statement and identification notice, we will be giving that notice within the next 15 days. We're preparing an ADF.
He's asking for a 2 terabyte hard drive for the evidence? How much evidence do you think you have, sir? And I mean, with your own admission, the quality of the evidence, but I mean, what's happening here? A lot of poor quality evidence. Yeah, okay. Luigi, eye contact master. Yeah, true. I've noticed that.
We'll do our best to expedite discovery, but I'll say that
as someone who knows and has worked with Brett closely over several years and has occasionally interacted with Catherine on small scale things, her presiding over the pretrial hearings is not great. They both have tremendous influence and reach in New York legal community.
Wah wah. Brett's a piece of shit. Called it. Sorry, Brett. Not my fault. It's your name.
Damn. Well, it's just a pretrial judge. They have a lot of security camera footage of the guy who actually did it, Mario. Yeah, you have a lot of security camera footage, but you don't know if it's him. You don't know if it's him. You can't tie it back to him. New York City is the New York of America. Lots of people. Concrete jungle where dreams are made of. There's nothing you can't do. That's all I'm going to say. That means that Luigi Mangione could have randomly walked past that area. Many people do. Millions of people walk past that crowded area. So it's really messed up that they just think that, this ties him back in some way to the scene of the crime. I'm just saying. Yeah, this was really funny as well. I thought this was a hilarious way to counter the narratives. Okay.
I think a 30-day adjournment to see where we're at, and to, of course, counsel's aware of the various notices. We have notices as well. I take it that the counsel will abide by the statutory limitations on their notices with respect to any notices they believe to be appropriate. As to counsel's record on the mayor, basically repeating what the mayor said, I don't know how that advances the ball. We will comply with our ethical obligations with respect to trying this defendant's guilt in this courtroom and this courtroom alone. Thank you.
All right, so
New York gays, you need to do better. Luigi Mangione had about 24 women in the court's public gallery today to support him. ABC News reports. Dude, that's so funny. That is so awesome. The people really needed a champion in these trying times. You know what I mean? They really did. They needed a hero. Follow up. What is this?
I mean, Luigi stepped up to be that hero that the city needs.
They're still tallying the men. I do find this stuff funny because, like, obviously Pop Crave isn't posting this because, like, Like ABC News is posting this because they want to be like, oh, they only care about him because he's hot. They're trying to undermine why people find him to be, why people find him to be personable. CBS reported the same. In addition to a long stream of journalists waiting for the suspect to appear, members of the public, almost all of them young women, were in court, some of whom told CBS, BBC's U.S. partner, that they were there to show their support. Yeah, they're trying to angle this as like, oh, because he's like white and hot, that's the only reason why people care about this. Literally what your ops say about you, listen, all I'm gonna say is a lot of the stuff that people are I let's just say I have close and personal experience
Yeah, me too, totally, 100%. I can totally relate.
with people constantly being like, people constantly pocket watching and people constantly saying that you would have zero fans if you weren't so hot. I know what it's like. Not to, I have done nothing in comparison to, Luigi's actions here.
None of us have. Let's be very clear. Luigi took action. He was proactive. We talk shit on the internet. We are not the same.
Let's be real. I am but a man, a simple man. Why the lawyer change? No, the lawyer didn't change. The lawyer that you saw was the Altoona lawyer, because there's separate charges in Pennsylvania state as well, because he was apprehended with a ghost gun and whatnot, and with a fake ID. So there's two different courts. There's two different trials. There's an Altoona, Pennsylvania trial for his Altoona apprehension.
Can I just say I loved the Altoona lawyer? Like, not to be my lawyer. I would be terrified if he was my lawyer. However, he was fun to listen to. I liked seeing him. I liked seeing him on TV. I liked seeing him talk. It was great. I hated that he was assigned to this trial. That's all.
The small town lawyer that you saw in that big suit, the short guy, that's the Altoona lawyer. This is the New York lawyer. There's also a New York court case, and there will probably be a federal one as well if they follow suit, where there will be a third lawyer for the federal case.
Cool. Bunch of lawyers, bunch of bullshit. Let's see. Okay, this was a bit more lighthearted. This is gonna be a lot worse. This is a pretty depressing story. There was unfortunately a horrible attack that took place in Germany a few days ago at Magdeburg. It was at a Christmas market, and if you're filling in the blanks with stuff, then maybe you're part of the problem. But I mean, I think it's important to understand these biases. If you started filling in the blanks by yourself in your head when this is all the information you have on the story. However, I have seen the internet response to the story has been pretty fucking gross. Has been absolutely horrendous. Genuinely disgusting. But I did spend some time listening to people I really disagree with. But let's have Owen Jones talk about this. Let's see what he has to say.
We know that the suspected murderer, indeed terrorist, Taleb al-Abdul Mohsen, who ploughed his vehicle into a crowd of people at a Christmas market in Magdeburg, Germany, was anti-Muslim and a cheerleader of far-right movements and personalities. We know because he had a Twitter account with over 120,000 tweets posted over the course of 8 years, in which he made clear his strident anti-Muslim views and flaunted his support for Germany's far-right party, the AfD, and the likes of far-right Dutch leader Geert Wilders, who he called a hero, as well as citing Elon Musk and Tommy Robinson and so on as inspirations. We know he advocated imprisoning or executing Angela Merkel for supposedly helping Islamize Europe. She's the former German Chancellor. We know he was a committed supporter of Israel. We know his Twitter profile denounces Germany for wanting to, in quotes, Islamize Europe. We know he appeared in a BBC documentary discussing his atheism and how he was attempting in his work to get other non-believers from the Middle East to come to Germany. And yet, when the attack first happened, Islamophobic right-wing accounts went into overdrive, seizing on the attack as yet more fodder for an anti-Muslim crusade. You might think the overwhelming evidence would lead them to discard their mistaken premature conclusion. Think again. Instead, they are doubling down and pushing a conspiracy theory that he is, in fact, a secret Islamist.
I mean, already before that, before they moved on to that conspiracy theory that secretly for 20 years he's been, putting on this persona and actively, working against, or combating whatever. Uh, that it wasn't that they accepted that he really was an atheist. However, it was a cultural thing. It was in his genes, in his blood. It was just the most racist, vile thing. Like, oh yeah, just terrorism is just part of a whole group of people. It's gross and it's very blatant. But they moved on to this one because it's a little more, I don't know, subtle. Can you call this subtle?
Let's start, shall we, with John Aziz, who presents himself as a sensible centrist moderate. He posted footage of the suspect being apprehended by gun-wielding German police officers. He writes, here is a question. If the suspect in the Christmas market attack is an ex-Muslim and an atheist, then why was he screaming Allahu Akbar at 17 seconds into this video when he was being arrested? The far-right account, Visegrad24, posts the, in inverted quotes, Islamophobic and inverted quotes ex-Muslim, i.e. sowing doubt, Magdeburg terrorist shouts Allahu Akbar during his arrest. That has, by the way, that tweet, 38,000 likes and counting.
Let's listen to it. What does he actually say?
Here's the footage. So the claims about this footage have spread across Twitter like wildfire.
Fascinating.
But he didn't say Allahu Akbar. As German speakers have pointed out, he says Alles klar, understood, in response to the police saying, don't move or no movement. And indeed, Arabic speakers have also been keen to emphasise it doesn't sound anything like what is being deceitfully claimed. Now, underlining how...
Yeah, but here's the issue, Owen. You're talking about like what actually happened, and we're talking about like reality and like, the truth. The truth is it doesn't really matter to a lot of these people, or what actually happened doesn't really matter. When you're conspiracy brained, you're willing to accept fucking whatever as long as it supports what you already believe. And what they already believe is just bigotry. It's not complicated. Is there a way of fixing that? I don't know. Is there a way of preventing people from falling into that? Absolutely. And I think that's education and exposure. I have seen people let go a lot of these biases or these bigotries that they held on to by interacting with people from those different cultures. Being like, oh yeah, these X, Y, and Z people are so and so, but if you spend day in day out interacting with these X, Y, and Z people, and they're just like any other group of people, you might have to start letting go of that bias because it would be very hard to contend with. Of course, cognitive dissonance is a very real thing, and you could be like, oh no, this is the exception, or secretly they're like this. Of course, and this is what I mean when I say some people I think are too far gone. But in general, I think the average person can grow out of it and be like, hey, okay, I might have had some, wrong ideas, but because I spent time with people, because I talked, because I listened, I learned a bit more, which is it's not a wrong thing in any, setting. Learn about it. So what? Learn about people, learn about different topics. It's really not insane. What I do find fascinating is that every single time there's anything like this that goes against their beliefs that these Arabs or Muslims are these dangerous, vile supervillains, or these secret criminals or whatever, they always bring it back to this one word that they saw on the internet, and somehow they think it makes them some expert. This taqiyya doctrine or whatever the fuck, which is so dumb. It's unbelievably dumb, and it's so it's so racist. Like it's just like, oh yeah, they have this secret doctrine, in between them that allows them that allows deception. So anytime uh anything doesn't add up, it's just because they're lying. They're just lying. They're all just lying. They can lie. Yeah, fucking anyone can lie. Yeah, no, but they're like extra liars because they have like a lying doctrine. Which, what?
Now, Elon Musk has turned Twitter into an engine of right-wing disinformation and misinformation. He's tweeted about the terror suspect, saying the atheist angle was a scam to avoid extradition. So what's the claim here? That he spent years adopting a persona backed up his actual activity of getting atheists out of the Middle East, and had spent 8 years promoting anti-Muslim right-wing politics on Twitter so he could stage an attack in which he wouldn't even state the supposed real reasons for the attack, thus advancing no cause, even whatever warped logic there you would use for that cause. How does that make sense? It doesn't make sense, of course, and there's no evidence for it, unlike all the evidence pointing in one direction, including that the attacker was a fan of Elon Musk, which he made very clear indeed. He also promoted a video that is Elon Musk claiming that the suspect was practicing a supposed tenet of Islam, which experts in Islam point out is completely unknown to most Muslims, of supposedly practicing deception to advance the religious cause. Again, if you believe he subscribes to a warped and heretical interpretation of Islam that justifies ploughing a vehicle into a Christmas market, how does that make sense if you don't make clear what your motive is and leave people with the impression you're an anti-Muslim atheist? This baseless conspiracy theory is just that, baseless. There's no evidence for it. Literally zero. It is a fantasy. But Elon Musk shared that fantasy, stating, WTF is the German press saying. Most people in Europe still think the legacy press is real when it's pure propaganda. Please send them links to X so they can know what's actually going on. So he's openly admitting here that he sees Twitter, or X as he keeps trying to call it, an engine of disinformation to convince people of lies in order to promote hateful political causes. I mean, that's what in practice he's doing here. He's telling people to disregard what the actual evidence says, claim that's lies, and then back a conspiracy theory based with no evidence and using X, Twitter, whatever, in order to promote that. Indeed, he shared the account End Wokeness, which screenshotted media headlines noting the suspect is Islamophobic, which has the caption, "We really don't hate the media enough," adding, and Elon Musk adds to that, "Legacy media lies again." I mean, also, to be honest, legacy media has pushed Islamophobia for years. I mean, one of the reasons that Islamophobia, anti-Muslim bigotry was mainstreamed is because of the legacy media. Now, it's notable that the suspect's Twitter account was suspended. When it was reinstated, all the posts from before November 2024 were deleted, as well as the search function on his profile being deactivated in an effort to erase his actual views. Indeed, after years of relentless anti-Muslim bile, of demonising Muslims, of portraying them as innately violent, even as Western powers have slaughtered predominantly Muslim citizens in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Palestine. One academic study suggests 4.5 million predominantly Muslims were killed in the post-9/11 wars. I mean, with Twitter now in the hands of an extremist, this lie is being lapped up by extremists who, of course, willingly embrace an alternative reality. One far-right account has screenshotted me, for example, discussing how the terrorist suspect is a far-right anti-Muslim pro-Israel extremist, adding, "This aged well, Owen," with a frown emoji and a clown emoji. Now, this tweet has amassed 12,000 likes. These people are so radicalised, so convinced of total lies, that they believe that those who work on the basis of what the actual evidence says are delusional and even liars. Indeed, Leo Kurz, a so-called comedian and presenter of the hard-right GB News channel, refers to my factual description of the politics of the suspect, stating, "This is a genuine tweet by a journalist for The Guardian, Britain's leading left-wing newspaper. The Guardian quit Twitter recently because of bias and misinformation." Yes, really. What's he talking about? What's this guy talking about? Where's the misinformation in my tweet? I'm just summing up the publicly stated views of the suspect, as has been stated by him over and over again for years on Twitter. Now, on his GB News channel show, the panel pushes this conspiracy theory. No balance whatsoever in this panel whatsoever. What is Ofcom doing? It's just a panel of people who agree with each other, directing viewers to disbelieve what the evidence suggests. Let's have a listen.
And this man, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, but he was a right-wing sympathiser." Well, why didn't he attack a mosque?
Ho, 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 ho. Okay, so let's. I mean, doesn't this give away the game a little bit when this is the statement that comes out of your fucking pie hole? When you're like, "Oh yeah, he was right wing. Then why didn't he attack a mosque?" Is that your understanding of right wing? Is that what it means to you to be right wing? And you call yourself right wing? Great job, great fucking job.
Yeah, I mean,
Make it make sense for me, please.
Yeah, his actions
Why did
don't
he attack
align
Christians?
with what's being said about him,
Exactly.
Nicholas, which is one of the things that, I can't get my head around. People are so quick to jump to blame, the far right because he's tweeted before in support for the AFD. But this guy doesn't seem to be doing, anything that, a supposedly far right person would be doing. He's
not doing anything a supposed far-right person would be doing, except supporting the AFD, supporting Israel, and committing a terrorist attack. I would say those are pretty clear things that would indicate that he's a far-right extremist.
He's behaving in the same manner as previous Islamist attacks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you need to...
It is interesting that they can't seem to recognize that these Islamists, these Muslim terrorists are far right as well. Hold on, someone's at the door. Sorry about that. Christmas time and, packages being sent and stuff. Sorry, should have left the video.
Judge him by what he has done, not by any presumably pro-AFD previous tweets. The thing is, the media, just like mainstream parties, are totally in denial. And that's why people go towards the likes of AFD.
What are they talking about? The idea that far-right violence isn't a thing is quite the position to take, given the attack happened in Germany, a state which produced the worst example of far-right violence ever seen in human history. Indeed, one of the worst actual terrorist attacks in Europe was in 2011, by the way, in Norway, when a far-right terrorist slaughtered dozens of young socialists. On what grounds? They supported mass immigration and thus the Islamization of Europe. This terrorist had convinced himself that Germany had abandoned so-called Western values and was pushing dangerous Islamization. That's the basis of his radicalization. Now, I love it when this so-called comedian says people are so quick to blame the far-right because he's tweeted in support of the AfD. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty good evidence, actually, given that's what he believes. He backs a far-right party. Yeah, I think the evidence is pretty clear there. Then someone else on the panel called Nicholas DeSanto, also a right-wing comedian, though I looked up his work and it is some of the most awful, embarrassing, unfunny material I've ever had the misfortune to listen to. But anyway, he says we should judge him by what he's done, not by any presumably pro-AFD previous tweets. What does that mean? What we know is the suspect is alleged to have committed an act of terrible violence. That doesn't tell us motive. That's why we have to work on the basis of his stated beliefs. As it happens, we have hundreds of thousands of words going back years, which set out those beliefs. Now, look, it's clear what's happening here, isn't it, guys? A wave of far-right extremism is being propelled by shameless lies, naked lies. Those lies are succeeding in radicalizing significant numbers of people. And it doesn't matter what the actual truth is. They will embrace every lie that justifies hatred and bigotry. With Elon Musk as king of Twitter, there is a hugely powerful means of radicalizing ever more recruits, which is why it's important that the rest of us tell the truth as loudly as we can. Please like and subscribe. Help us take on these lies at patreon.com/OJS84. Listen to the podcast. Leave comments. Subscribe. Like. Speaking a bit.
Thank you, Owen. Yeah, of course. If you're starting from the conclusion, you're only going to support what you already believe. Let's check out. Let's go to completely. Well, no, maybe not so completely different topic. From Democracy Now!, Christ is still in the rubble. Bethlehem Reverend Isaac.
This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. We turn now to Palestine, where Christians are preparing for a second Christmas under ongoing Israeli attacks.
Can we actually address this? Yeah, this just hit me as the sentence came out from his mouth. This is the second Christmas. It's been a year. It's been 2 years. This is the well, not 2 years. I mean, this is the second Christmas they spend under bombardment, cut off food and water, indiscriminate bombings and killings. This is the fact that people went on about their lives, the fact that people are still going on about their lives while this is going on is a testament to how selfish and gross and
As the number killed in Gaza has risen to 45,317, though the toll is likely so much higher. In the past 24 hours alone, dozens of Palestinians have been killed in Israeli strikes in Gaza. On Friday, the Palestinian theologian and pastor, Reverend Munther Isaac, delivered a Christmas sermon at the Evangelical Lutheran Christmas Church in Bethlehem, an occupied West Bank, the birthplace of Jesus, called Christ is Still in the Rubble. He'll join us in a minute. First, this excerpt of his address.
Never again should mean never again to all peoples. Never again has become yet again. Yet again to supremacy. Yet again to racism. And yet again to genocide. And sadly, never again has become yet again for the weaponization of the Bible and the silence and complicity of the Western Church. Yet again for the Church siding with power, the Church siding with the empire. And so today, after all this of total destruction and annihilation, and Gaza is erased, unfortunately. Millions have become refugees and homeless, tens of thousands killed. And why is anyone still debating whether this is a genocide or not? I can't believe it. Yet even when church leaders simply call for investigating whether this is a genocide, he is called out and it becomes breaking news. Friends, the evidence is clear. Truth stands plain for all to see. The question is not whether this is a genocide. This is not the debate. The real question is, why isn't the world and the church calling it a genocide?
Because the people that are being killed are not considered equal or as important or part of the in-group. And the people that are doing the killing are part of the in-group. That's it. It's unfortunately that disgustingly simple.
It says a lot.
They're Arab, they're brown. You know what? They're Palestinian. If they're Arab, that means they're all Muslim. And for somehow I convinced myself that it's okay if Muslims are dying or being killed. And the ones that are doing it, they're part of the West. They have Western values like us, so it's okay for them to do it. If the roles were reversed, not a single person would debate what it was.
When you deny and ignore and refrain from using the language of genocide, this says a lot. It actually reveals hypocrisy. For you lectured us for years on international laws and human rights. It reveals your hypocrisy. It says a lot on how you look at us Palestinians. It says a lot about your moral and ethical standards. It says everything about who you are when you turn away from the truth, when you refuse to name oppression for what it is. Or could it be that they're not calling it a genocide? Could it be that if reality was acknowledged for what it is, that it is a genocide, then that it would be an acknowledgement of your guilt? For this war was a war that was so many defended as just and self-defense. And now you can't even bring yourself to apologize. We said last year, Christ is in the rubble. And this year we say, Christ is still in the rubble. The rubble is his manger. Jesus finds his place with the marginalized, the tormented, the oppressed, and the displaced. We look at the Holy Family and see them in every displaced and homeless family living in despair. In the Christmas story, even God walks with them and calls them his own. So today, let us reflect on the child Jesus, the child of Bethlehem. At the heart of the incarnation, there is a child. And this child, in his weakness, he is our hope. He is our consolation. He is our strength. This child, let us remember, this child shook Herod's throne when he was born. And while there are some who talk about their Roman Empire or glorify Herod as great, we are the ones who sing of a child born to refugees escaping a massacre. Yes, it has been 440 days. It is 440 days of Palestinians' resilience, sumud. Indeed, it is 76 years of sumud. But we have not and will not lose hope. Yes, it is 76 years of an ongoing Nakba, but it is also 76 years of Palestinian sumud, clinging to our rights and justice of our cause. 76 years of praying and singing for peace. I was thinking about it. We are stubborn people. We continue to pray for peace year after year after year and sing about peace, and we will continue to do so. And we will continue to echo the words of the angels, glory to God in the highest, peace on earth.
Excerpts of this year's Christmas sermon from Pastor Reverend Isaac Munther at the Evangelical Lutheran Christmas Church in Bethlehem in the occupied West Bank in Palestine. Reverend Isaac's forthcoming book is titled Christ in the Rubble, Faith, the Bible, and the Genocide in Gaza. The Pope has just repeated his call for a ceasefire in Gaza. He also unveiled this year's nativity scene at the Vatican, portraying a baby Jesus in a crib lined with a Palestinian keffiyeh. The Israeli government has now denounced the Pope for calling for an international inquiry into Israel's assault on Gaza to see if it constitutes a genocide. The pastor, Munther Isaac, is joining us now from occupied Bethlehem. Your thoughts on what's happening, on the Pope being condemned by Israel, on what's happening in Bethlehem, the second year that Christmas activities have been canceled because of the more than 45,000 Palestinians killed in Gaza. Reverend Isaac, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Well, if Israel was true that they are engaging within the rules of wars, then why should they be concerned if anyone, not just the Pope, calls for investigation into whether war crimes are taking place or not? Israel is clearly committing a genocide. I mean, the evidence is very clear. And of course, they should be concerned because if an investigation takes place, it's going to reveal truly what is taking place. And even here in Bethlehem, it's not easy. It's another Christmas with isolation, with Bethlehem being completely isolated from Bethlehem, more blockades, more gates, checkpoints outside of Bethlehem. And my fear and our fear here in Bethlehem is that there is no one who's going to hold Israel accountable. And that's why statements like this from His Holiness the Pope make a difference, because Israel needs to know that we live within a community that respects the rule of law. Otherwise, chaos will prevail if everyone just does what they can. And if the rule of might is right rules, then is this the kind of future we want to leave for our children?
Reverend Isaac, we spoke to you in our studio in New York. You came here to New York. You went to Washington, D.C. As the Biden administration wraps up and President Trump is about to become president again, what are you demanding of the United States?
That it respects the international law. I mean, it cannot be the United States and Israel versus the rest of the world, as every...
I mean, clearly it can. It can be the United States and Israel versus the rest of the world because, like you said, if you believe in might makes right, you don't care about the law. You don't care about justice. You don't care about equality. You don't care about anything. I am strong, so I get to do this. I get to steal, kill, hurt, whatever the fuck, because I'm strong. I can get away with it. That's the mentality. And the issue is, they seem to believe that because I'm strong today, I'll be strong tomorrow and after and forever. Never mind what's right, because clearly you don't care about what's right and what's wrong. Purely out of a selfish self-preservation, if you think that might makes right, and because you're strong you can get away with whatever, understand that that's not a guarantee for the future, and that someday you might not be the strongest around. You might not be the biggest bully on the playground. You might not have the biggest nuclear stick. Then what happens? If all you care about is yourself and you don't care about right and wrong, you don't care about other people, it's just about you and that self-preservation. Cool. What do you think that world looks like when some bigger, tougher guy shows up with a bigger stick? Or when all the kids on the playground team up together against the big bully? I don't care how big and strong you are. You're gonna have everyone turn against you. You don't really stand a chance.
United Nations vote reveals. Again, if the United States is honest about its call for freedom, ideals, human rights, then they should respect that and that they should abide by the international law. My message is that they are enabling Israel into politics that's leading the whole region into chaos and destruction. There can be other ways. There are other ways. And we're tired and sick of these wars, which are enabled by American tax money and American politics.
Tell us more about Christ in the rubble and that image that you created in the manger last year, that you continue this year. We said well over 45,000 Palestinians have died in Gaza. Close to 800 have died in the West Bank under Israeli assault. Talk about the situation where you are.
Yeah, I mean, we're still seeing images of children pulled from under the rubble. It's unthinkable to me that it's been more than 14 months now into this genocide, and we're still seeing the same images. It seems like we're powerless, and it seems like the world is content with letting this go on. And here in the West Bank, as we watch from Bethlehem what's happening, or Ramallah or Hebron, we wonder, are we next? Israel has made it clear they plan to annex the West Bank next year. what would this mean on the ground? Again, we live in this moment of anticipation, of anxiety, and at the same time, we're broken by the fact that the world seemed content with letting this go without serious efforts to make it stop or put accountability and restraint on those who commit war crimes.
And for next year, about the whole annexation of the West Bank, Donald Trump, who has taken, which let's be very clear and call it a bribe, by Israeli activist Miriam Adelson, has agreed to let Israel annex the West Bank. Annex, if you don't know, steal land, essentially. What Russia is trying to do to large swaths, if not the entirety of Ukraine. That's what Israel has done to, obviously, Palestine. That's what Israel has done to Syria and Lebanon and Jordan, and soon even more of Syria, Lebanon, and more of Jordan, and more of Iraq, and I imagine eventually Egypt and Saudi Arabia. And we'll be living in a very different world if we let that happen. A very cruel and cold and horrid world that allows this might makes right mentality to push through and steal and kill anyone who opposes you, and accuse them of anti-Semitism because, hey, you might think that killing people is wrong. And if you think killing people is wrong, hey, maybe you're against Israel. And if you're against Israel, somehow, let's pretend that means that's anti-Semitic.
Reverend Munther Isaac, we thank you so much for being with us. Palestinian Christian theologian, pastor at the Evangelical Lutheran Christmas Church in occupied Bethlehem, where his Christmas sermon this year was titled, "Christ is Still in the Rubble." He was speaking to us from Palestine. That does it for our show. A happy birthday to
Thank you, Amy. You still got a little bit of time. BBC. I have been severely disappointed by the BBC. Let's see what they have.
In times of conflict, access to reliable news is vital. And today, many turn to...
Yeah. Isn't that right, BBC? Access to reliable news. Not when you say stuff like self-defense or war between Israel and Hamas or 40 beheaded babies or
to social media as their primary source of information. On platforms like Facebook and Instagram, how people engage with content, so comments, likes, shares, reactions, can increase visibility and shape public opinion. But for the last year, Palestinian journalists have raised concerns that their posts are being suppressed.
المحتوى الفلسطيني عليه رقابة خاصة اللي بيطلع من قطاع غزة.
Palestinian content is monitored,
رقابة خاصة
especially when it comes from Gaza.
اللي بيطلع من قطاع غزة.
And according to our research, something has happened. In the first comprehensive data analysis by territory since the start of the war in Gaza, we analysed more than 100,000 Facebook posts by different Palestinian news organisations. This bar represents the average engagement per post in the lead up to the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. As you can see, it fluctuates, but it's steady. And then
Hamas's attack and Israel's subsequent and ongoing war in Gaza.
You see, when you have to frame it as, oh yeah, you know, Hamas is unprovoked, just randomly, terrorist attack on Israel, just for no reason, just because they're evil and terrorists, and the subsequent response, you know, the war that they're waging. It's not a war.
With high civilian casualties, became one of the biggest talking points in the world.
But look what happens to the engagement on those same Facebook pages. It nosedives. In fact, since that date, there's been a 77% drop in average engagement.
Which is weird, right? You'd imagine that since the situation escalated, you would see engagement explode. More people are seeing this. More people are reacting to this. But the 77% drop is wild.
لأسرة فلسطينية من 7 أفراد.
One of the pages analysed in our investigation is the well-established Palestine TV. They have 5.8 million followers on Facebook and have had some posts about the war restricted by the platform.
Although people in public showed major interest in seeing the events that are happening after the war, we were surprised that the opposite happened. Interactions was completely restricted. Stopped reaching.
Tarek showed us these analytics of how the number of users seeing Palestine TV's content dropped by 60%.
Yeah, on Facebook and Instagram. Strange, right?
After October the 7th. Tarek and many others say they're being shadow banned. But what is shadow banning? It's an unofficial term for when a social network restricts a user without explicitly telling them. Platforms allow them to continue posting, but deliberately reduce how many people actually see and hear from them.
That usually happens when you make the wrong kind of political content. Hint, hint.
There are lots of ways social networks can control how many people see certain posts. Virtual knobs and dials can be adjusted to make content more or less visible depending on the platform priorities. Once they're decided, the moderation is happening all the time, usually by machines, in a split second. Meta, the owner of Facebook and Instagram, don't use the term shadow ban, but they do demote users or pages if they post things the company deems to be either problematic or low quality. Ahmed Noor.
Hey, look, if you want to call my streams low quality, I agree. I'm right there with you. I think my content is very low quality. It is as low effort as possible because stress. But problematic, I mean, what do you mean by that? Problematic because I cheer for human rights? Then I think you're the one with an issue. Problematic as in I'm cheering for violations of human rights? Cool, then I understand that. But what do you think my content is exactly? And I'm not saying I'm being shadow banned. That's not my point here. What I'm saying is that my content is just a very easy example of the type of content that would be seen as unacceptable because I take certain stances. But obviously, these pages reporting on what's happening in Israel Palestine, obviously they're going to be quote unquote demoted because hey, they're reporting on what's actually happening, not what they want people to be sharing. Not hey, there's a genocide going on. There's more of a hey, did you hear about this controversy that this content creator had?
From BBC News Arabic compiled this data analysis. Ahmed, do you think that this decline in engagement on the Palestinian pages might be down to them posting violent or upsetting content about the war?
Yes, since October the 7th and the war in Gaza.
Violent or upsetting content? You mean reporting the news because what's happening is violent and upsetting? What the fuck?
We have seen evidence of a rise in graphic and hateful content online. But our research was focusing on established news organizations based.
Rise in graphic content. Do you mean because you keep shooting children in the fucking head and chest, there might be more videos of children being shot in the head and chest? Who do you think is at fault here? The news reporting on it? Are you out of your fucking mind?
Based in Palestinian territories, who would unlikely be the main offenders in posting this content. There has also been evidence of content that appears to be hateful and inciting coming from users in Israel. So we did the same analysis on news organizations based there and found they were not impacted as the Palestinian news organizations were. In fact, their engagement went up.
Could it be that Facebook moderates Arabic differently to other languages?
Well, we compared the pages located in the Palestinian territories with other Arabic-speaking news organizations based across the region, and we found their engagement went up, in some cases by 100%. Another question raised is whether Gaza's internet outages caused the Palestinian pages' engagement to drop. But this cannot be the case, as the residents of Gaza form less than 20% of some of the page's audience. Let's take a look at all three sets of data and see how they compare. Our analysis provides
And it does seem like they're quite clearly banning the Palestinian pages, which should be quite obvious. But even if you're going to talk about like the content, you'll find similar, if not drastically worse content on the Israeli pages, where they have pages that just glorify the murder of people.
Provides evidence for the first time since October 7th that news organizations based in Palestinian territories faced stricter moderation by Facebook.
The international community is more dependent on social media for seeing what's happening inside Gaza, as Israel has denied foreign reporters access into the Strip outside of very rare escorted trips. Omar El-Khattar is one of the few photojournalists who chose to stay in northern Gaza despite the risks. More than 130 journalists and media workers have been killed since the start of the war, with the vast majority in Gaza.
المحتوى لما بينحظر
It's certain that a lot of information can't be published.
أكيد في كتير معلومات مش حنقدر ننشرها. يعني لما
For example, if the army commits a massacre and we film it, the video won't spread. Because
الجيش ارتكب مجزرة احنا صورنا الفيديو مش حينتشر فالناس مش حتشوف.
And people won't be able to see the details.
شوف المعلومات رغم التحديات ورغم
Despite the challenges and the risks and the content bans,
المخاطر ورغم إزالة المحتوى احنا
must continue sharing Palestinian content.
لابد
I agree. That's what I try to do here.
ويجب انه نستمر في نشر المحتوى الفلسطيني.
Meta admitted that pages posting exclusively about the war were more likely to see engagement impacted, but it said that any implication that it deliberately suppressed a particular voice is unequivocally false.
Then explain how the fuck that specifically Palestinian content made by Palestinians about what's happening in Palestine is following the exact opposite trend of what it should be. You can see what it should be, for example, on the Israeli pages of Israelis posting about Israeli content of what's happening in Israel, Palestine, having their viewership increase or the content increase because there is greater interest in the topic. There is the exact same greater interest in this topic, just seen from the Palestinian side, if not more, and somehow it's facing way more moderation and it's being restricted. It's pretty clear that you're treating them very differently.
The Californian company acknowledged that it makes mistakes with moderation, but says it had to adopt what it calls temporary product and policy measures in response to the conflict to balance platform safety with freedom of speech. The firm said this was difficult when groups like Hamas are both US sanctioned and designated as dangerous organizations under our policies.
It is a tough decision, right? Because they, I think, in general, want to provide news for people, with some exceptions perhaps, but they do also have this concern about hate speech. But I absolutely think it's possible that they're making mistakes, right? I mean, these are decisions that are being made very quickly. Fundamentally, Meta's main incentive is just to keep people on the platform. That's what they want to do. And that is always going to kind of keep priority over things like keeping people fully informed or showing both sides of the issues.
Meta publicly states that rules are applied equally to everyone, everywhere, and to all types of content.
Clearly, quite clearly, you can say that. You can say it as much as you want, but your actions quite clearly aren't that. Look, I know I sound like I'm angry at this BBC, and I am. But at the same time, for BBC, considering what it is, considering, mainstream media and considering their restrictions and, Britain's role, this is definitely way better content coming out of BBC. So yeah, props to them for actually using the word Palestinian in the title, which is, I would say a huge step for BBC.
But according to some people from inside the company, Palestinians have been deliberately suppressed. This former Meta employee asked us to keep them anonymous, but shared internal documents about a change that was made to Instagram's algorithm.
Within a week of the Hamas attack, the code was changed, essentially making it more aggressive towards Palestinian people writing comments on Instagram posts.
They gave us these leaked documents showing an order to strengthen the precision threshold further from 40
For Palestinian authors only. Applies to everyone equally. Palestinian authors only. Applies to everyone equally. To Palestinian authors only. That doesn't seem to line up though. Right?
To 25 for Palestinian authors only. This means the algorithm only has to be 25% sure a comment from a Palestinian based in the West Bank or Gaza was potentially violating guidelines to make it less visible to other users. The leaked documents also show an internal chat where an engineer raises a concern about the order. They say, seems odd to be decreasing the threshold this significantly for only one country, and they question whether or not this is introducing a new bias into the system against Palestinian users. Meta confirmed that this measure was taken, but said it was...
If you're even going out and admitting that this is the measure that was taken, how can you in the same breath be like, hey, yeah, we apply the rules to everyone equally?
necessary to respond to what it calls a spike in hateful content, but clearly some staff were unhappy about it.
This kind of bias will affect the whole narrative. Customers, regular customers, would be looking at their phones thinking that they're seeing the truth, when they're actually seeing just a very small slice, or they're being trapped in a bubble because other people was...
Because obviously that's the actual intention of this. The actual intention is that when the general public, when the regular person is watching or reading or whatever the fuck, when they go on their Facebook or on their Instagram, when they see this content, they don't want people to see the Palestinian perspective. There is just, hey, these people, you can't dehumanize people. Like I said, you can't dehumanize people if you constantly interact and you see people's perspective. You have to hate them and not learn about them and avoid them completely. And all you can know about them is from the people that currently are genuinely killing them. So what do you think, what kind of perspective is that going to create?
Silenced.
BBC journalist Yara Farag has been speaking to 5 former and current Meta employees. Yara, were these concerns raised at a higher level?
Concerns have been raised with Meta's executives such as Naomi Glate, head of product, Maxine Williams, chief diversity officer, and Nick Legg, head of global affairs. There's no clarity on who exactly gives the okay for changes to data or policies around content moderation. And there's also no clarity on whether anything was done in response to claims of systemic bias.
And this isn't the first time that Meta's been accused of having some sort of a bias against Palestinian users, is it?
It's not. In fact, since 2016, Palestinians have been raising concerns of unfair censorship on Facebook and Instagram. And in recent years, 2 major reports from Business for Social Responsibility and Human Rights Watch found that Meta's actions negatively impacted on the rights of Palestinian users.
Meta responded to both reports, saying it's still working to improve its moderation systems.
There is a huge...
We're working to improve it, but we're still gonna impose rules for one group of people and different rules for another group of people? Clearly you're not trying to improve it here. This is a criticism of Meta and Facebook and Instagram, not a criticism of BBC, just to be clear. This is me telling Zuck to go fuck himself.
Saying it's still working to improve its moderation systems.
There is a huge problem in Meta's policies and the way they impact Palestine-related content. So I think we're beyond the argument whether, Meta is doing what they need to do or not, or, whether it's intentional or not. I think what Meta needs to do is to demonstrate what they're doing to ensure that they are protecting people's right to express themselves.
The decades-long Israeli-Palestinian conflict continues to be one of the most difficult topics to address for many media organisations. But what our research suggests is that when platforms are as large as Meta's, even small changes can have big implications.
Yeah, but these are not small changes, though. That's the thing. Yes, even small changes can have big implications, but those are not small changes. Yeah, I was just gonna say, let's head to the comments to see what the experts think. It's like BBC didn't restrict Palestinian news. Yeah. You don't need the /sarcasm there to figure it out. And BBC, how did you restrict, distort, and deflect the plight of the Palestinians? Mainstream media is complicit in the horrors of Gaza. Thank you. BBC is also complicit in this genocide. Genocide Rapporteur is giving out about another genocide supporter. Yeah. Nice. I'm very surprised BBC would put a video up like this. From a regular viewer of BBC News, they seem to not care about this topic at all. Thank you very much. How the fuck would you not care about this topic? Amnesty International, why this is a genocide. Israel's genocide against Palestinians in Gaza revealed. This is Amnesty International. BBC is the same. Where's the coverage of Gaza now? Just yesterday, and yet another hospital was bombed, and the ICU has been destroyed. Now imagine if this happened in Tel Aviv. Exactly. If this happened in Tel Aviv, coverage would be very clear. Everyone would know exactly what's happening, and there would be no question about it. Time to boycott these entities. I don't use Facebook anymore. Good for you. I'm feeling like this video itself will get shadow banned. As many of you have pointed out, the BBC itself has been awful regarding Palestine. The fact that the video was posted at all got to the response of complaints. Got to be in response to complaints by parts of the BBC staff, more than 100 of them, according to Owen Jones. He was interviewed by Novara Media just yesterday on this topic in the video called Owen Jones Investigates BBC's Pro-Israel Bias. Okay, I mean, again, I'm not happy with the BBC, but props to them. Credit where credit's due. They did better. At least they reported on it, which is very unlike them. So, good. Jay, have you started the live stream yet? Not. I'm excited. I don't want to start another video and then not finish it. But here, this is a pretty short one. It's by Katie Halper. How am I not subscribed to Katie Halper? Let me just check. I'm subscribed to Owen. I'm not subscribed to Democracy Now. Come on. There we go. Of course, I'm subscribed to Hasan. You're crazy. Half my content is this guy.
What about you, Harrison?
I was a career Army officer. When I resigned, I was still in uniform, but I was working at a civilian intelligence agency called the Defense Intelligence Agency, or the DIA. Performs a lot of the same functions as the CIA, which is what's more famous, but it's smaller, and it mainly serves the Department of Defense. So to get an idea of what my office did, when you hear about the president receiving his presidential daily brief that's telling him what's going on in the world, that's the work of hundreds, if not thousands, of people researching, writing, reading classified intel reporting. My office worked on that for the Middle East and Africa, and part of that is intel sharing with allies and partners both around the world and in the region. So one of the things that my office also did, especially after October 7th, was responsible for sharing a lot of intelligence with the Israeli Ministry of Defense. I should have mentioned when I was explaining what my agency did, my role there was the assistant to a senior official who was in charge of all that analysis for the Middle East and for Africa. And I'm mentioning that because I had a higher vantage point than some of my colleagues about what was going on at the Director of National Intelligence level, at the Department of Defense level, and then also at the NSC level. Anybody doing strategic intelligence is going to get reflections of what those people want and what they're thinking of. I had a especially, I think, strong vantage point because of the office that I was in. And so after October 7th, seeing all the same awful stuff in the media and online that y'all were seeing, and the horrific images, just kind of what we expected Israel to do after a really surprising, horrific attack. And so I was disturbed by that. But then what I also could see was how the bureaucracy was reacting, how the DoD was reacting, and to a certain extent how the NSC was reacting. And I was really looking for any indication that the administration was going to put its foot down or was going to moderate or attenuate the level of support we were giving to Israel, because of course you saw the president say it out loud shortly after October 7th, and we felt it in the institutions, in the DoD, and in the intel community, that we were going to do a full court press and provide enhanced levels of support to our Israeli counterparts. I think that probably applied to the entire U.S. government, certainly in the IC. So I was really waiting to see if there was going to be any indication from any of this higher leadership that because of the, at the time, you could most generously describe it as carelessness, on the other spectrum, genocidal nature of even just Israel's air campaign in the first couple weeks after October 7th, that was clearly killing tons of people. And the US government was well aware of the level of destruction and pretty well aware of the level of casualties. That was not disputed. So I was really waiting to see, okay, are we going to do anything about this? Are we going to stop meeting with them all the time? Are we going to stop sharing?
No, again, you forget. The people you're killing, those are Arabs. It's okay. They're for you to kill. Go for it. That's it. It's the exact same thing. Whatever war. I mean, the US has been at war longer than it hasn't been at war. The US has been at war somewhere with someone. And the thing is, that war is always far off. That war is in someone else's land, mostly the Middle East, but it's someone else's land. It's their civilians dying. Your civilians have an appetite for war. The US population has a larger appetite for war than most people around the world, because most people around the world have seen war, know what it's like, know what it does. When an American dies abroad, it's an American soldier, not a civilian, somebody that was traveling there to kill. So, and usually the people that they're killing are just innocent women and children and men as well. Men can be civilians as well, which they often are, but so I don't know what made you think that all of a sudden this would be any different. This is nothing new. This is just the latest iteration of it. What Israel's doing has been going on for a very long time. America has been doing it for a very long time, and it's nothing new. It's just the latest, chapter, I suppose. A horrific chapter, a violent, bloody chapter, a genocidal chapter. I would hope the US would do better, but clearly it isn't.
Sharing all this intel with them, and that moment never came. And not only did it never come, eventually, and still in October of 2023, we got guidance from DoD and DNI that was clearly intended to respond to concerns that, hey, are we going to be intel sharing with people doing war crimes or gross violations of human rights?
DoD, just to be clear, is Department of Defense, and DNI is Department of National Intelligence, I assume. I'm guessing. I'm not sure.
It's like that was clearly the objective of this guidance, and it basically concluded, if your Israeli counterparts tell you that they're not doing war crimes, they're not, and we're not going to investigate it further. And so,
yeah, exactly. That's how it works, because you ask them, hey, are you doing war crimes? And if they say no, then yeah, what do you think, they're just not going to tell the truth? Why would they do that?
That was pretty depressing. I think for so many other reasons, cultural reasons, and my own fear, I never would have was not planning on doing a lot of challenges internally. But that already showed me there was no point, because we were getting from my boss's boss's boss, an explanation that we're gonna take the Israelis at their word and not push back. And so at that point, I was pretty hopeless, and I understood that this was not going to let up, and so I was going to be contributing to the slaughter and the killing there as long as I was in my seat. And so submitted my resignation. If you do it in the Army, it's a very slow process, so I didn't get out until several months later. But that basically was what got me started.
Was there something in particular that you saw, like, that was done with either direct or indirect, maybe like implicit support of the US, that what made it hard for you to like sleep at night?
I don't know. I mean, the explicit support was, of course, the encouragement of the administration and the fact that we were freely giving them arms and intel no matter what.
Right.
I think it was surprising to me, and one of the indicators that, okay, we're not really going to care what they do in Gaza. You may remember, this is a quainter world, but last October it was a really huge deal that the IDF was going to storm or attack. Sorry, it was a really big deal when it looked like the IDF bombed a large hospital in Gaza, and there was a big deal about that. And then, afterwards, nobody really cared when they bombed other hospitals in times where they're.
Yeah, and then they proceeded. Yeah. I remember that whole debate. No, we would never bomb a hospital. It was one of them. They bombed their own hospital. There's no way we would bomb a hospital. We would never bomb a hospital. And then every single hospital in the Gaza Strip is no longer standing. Yeah, it's amazing what people are willing to turn a blind eye to.
There's no dispute about it, and nobody really cared when it was quite clear that we had advance notice that they were going to attack or target hospitals in some way.
Right.
So that was tough, and I had a couple months where I was like, oh wow, this is really going to cross the line.
Everyone knows, right, that we provide Israel with weapons. I think people know less about, or think less about, the way we provide them with intelligence. So can you talk about what that looks like?
I want to be clear that without American bombs or munitions, their war effort would have put it out months and months ago.
Right.
It's not really the same with intel. They don't need our help to bomb Gaza. They don't need our help to find things to bomb in Gaza. But Israel's a small country. They don't have all of our intel agencies. They don't have all of the satellites.
No, they don't have the same intel. But like you just said, they don't have the bombs to continue doing this. This is why the US is directly complicit. This is why Germany is directly complicit. That's why the UK is directly complicit.
Satellites that we have. So I'll just say, understanding everything else that's going on in the Middle East, we can help with that.
Okay.
They start getting attacked from Yemen. Do you think the Israeli?
How about the US stops helping? How about the US takes care of its own people and its own land? How about the US stays the fuck away from the rest of the world? Is that an option? Is that an option that the US minds its own fucking business and lets countries develop on their own? The world might look a little bit different, just a little bit.
The intel services have the capacity or the interest that they were looking at Yemen for the last 5 years? Yeah, of course not. So I would say when it came to running defense and helping them understand and protect themselves from threats or perceived threats in the rest of the region, the U.S. has a lot to offer there. And that probably became much more valuable after the war expanded outside of Palestine, which happened after I quit.
Yeah, the war just expanded, just by itself. It's weird. It's like magic or something. Sorry, I keep jumping onto Jorge's channel. I'm hoping for the saga, the live stream to start. For the time being, should we get started? The real question is, yeah, no. The saga, he'll play it all from the beginning. Cool. So we'll just watch it all from the beginning together. As long as that hasn't started, we can watch something else in the meantime. Maybe watch some Assassin's Creed lore. Maybe it's more lighthearted, switch away from heavy topic.
The pieces of Eden are quite evidently abundant in.
I do also want to make sure I don't spoil anything. I know I haven't played Assassin's Creed in a while, but I do want to get back to it. Codex pages explained. I don't know much about that either.
Assassin's Creed, with many different types appearing throughout the series. From the well-known Apples of Eden to Swords of Eden and Spears of Eden, we've encountered a wide variety of these powerful artifacts. Some are more obscure, and there are still many others people might not be familiar with. So what I want to do in this video is explain the history of the Pieces of Eden, and then go over every piece of Eden that we know of in the entire Assassin's Creed universe. While you can always check the Assassin's Creed wiki for this information, some of the text can be a bit confusing, so instead I'm making this video to break everything down in a way that's much easier to understand, and most importantly you can just listen to it. Now, real quick before I get into it, if you do enjoy this pretty lengthy video, do consider hitting that subscribe button. You can also consider becoming a member of my Patreon to receive some pretty good benefits such as early videos, shoutouts and more. You don't need to, but it's there if you want. With that said, this is every piece of Eden in Assassin's Creed explained. Real quick before I get into it, if you love the Chinese novel Journey of the West, or maybe you play Black Myth Wukong, you'd know how incredible Sun Wukong is. So I've got something cool for you. If you're into stunning graphics, insane boss battles, intense gameplay and over 800 unique champions, then this right here is your game. Right now, Raid Shadow Legends has an exclusive offer that will get you one of the most powerful champions in the game, Sun Wukong, the legendary Monkey King. If you're a new player, download Raid using my link in the description and enter the promo code Monkey King within the first 72 hours of registering, and you'll unlock Sun Wukong as a free champion. Based on the legendary trickster from Chinese mythology, Sun Wukong's skills are just as insane, from stealing all buffs from enemies, placing block buffs on all targets, having a staff that ignores 50% of a target's defense, to the insane passive ability where if he's knocked out, he can fully revive himself. But don't wait too long. This promo code is only available until the end of October, so make sure you grab him while you can. And if that's not enough, Raid is running one of its biggest events right now, the Asgard Divide. From now until November 22nd, you can get Loki the Deceiver and other legendary champions like Thor, Odin and Freya. Just log in for 7 days and Loki
Is
the
this a
Deceiver...
fucking ad? Sorry, I was in the bathroom. Is this an ad? What's happening here? Oh my god, it's an ad. Lame. Oh my god, it's Raid Shadow Legends. Sorry about that. No. Thank you.
The Pieces of Eden are ancient and incredibly powerful artifacts. These are not just any ordinary objects, or maybe they appear to be, but instead these artifacts are highly advanced technology created by none other than the Isu, an ancient godlike civilization that existed long before humans took over the world. The Isu engineer these artifacts to control humans by interacting with special neurotransmitters that they designed into human brains. With these pieces, the Isu could control human thoughts, emotions, and even behavior, making humans their obedient servants. While most Pieces of Eden were created to control humanity, not all of them follow this pattern. For example, take the Shrouds of Eden. Instead of controlling humans, this Piece of Eden was made to heal even the most fatal wounds. A great example of this we've seen is Crawford Starrick in Assassin's Creed Syndicate. This diversity in their design shows just how advanced...
Well, there we go. Already spoilers. Fantastic. I mean, I knew I was playing with fire as soon as I opened this video. This was a bad idea. Cool. Let's find something else to watch. Oh, sorry. Just dropped the mic.
What's happening in Gaza is the shame of the century. Gaza has been erased. There is almost nothing left other than the despair of people who continue to perish there. Look at the acts of torture. Look at who's being killed. Doctors, nurses, students, mothers, children. 17,000 children. To look at what the soldiers have done and said. And then have the courage to say that this is not genocide. This genocide would have not been possible without the shocking cover-up by the media. The role that corporate media played in justifying crimes, in spreading misinformation, like the 40 beheaded babies.
We have some really disturbing new information out of Israel. The Israeli Prime Minister's spokesman just confirmed babies and toddlers were found with their heads decapitated in Kfar Aza in southern Israel after Hamas attacks in the kibbutz over the weekend.
The basic ethical principles governing their profession.
I choked up earlier reading this new revelation about 40 babies being killed.
Oh my God.
And some of them being beheaded. And I was like, How can any human being do that to a baby?
The role of international.
Yes, Pierce. And how could somebody say that on air and then be confronted by it by Francesca Albanese and Bassem Youssef and then deny that you ever said it? The clip is right there, sir. It's not difficult to find.
National media, of Western media, in acting in defense of the acts of a genocidal state. This is unprecedented, but it's also revealing of the global situation we are facing, the fact that this is not just the genocide of the Palestinians committed by Israel. A number of Western countries are complicit, and so this is an opportunity to interrogate the system we live in, the checks and balances we have as a global community, how people in the West trying to stop the genocide have been repressed. There is momentum and goodwill to make a change, and people feel at loss because they look at their politicians who are in bad faith, especially those who claim to be human rights lawyers.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right.
They know that you cannot advocate for starvation. They know that you cannot doubt that a genocide is ongoing, where the International Court of Justice has recognized the plausibility of genocide. You should act upon the recognition of that plausibility.
I'm well aware of the definition of genocide, and that is why I've never described this and referred to it as genocide.
This genocide is also the consequence of the enduring impunity that Israel has been granted since its foundation. Israel has been allowed to violate hundreds of UN resolutions. And this is the result. A state that behaves as if it was above the law, and the state that becomes repressive against those who are trying to hold it accountable. Let me be clear. I have nothing against the State of Israel. The State of Israel is a recognized member of the United Nations, and because of this, I've always respectfully, since the beginning of my mandate, trying to engage with the State of Israel. However, I cannot tolerate that the only modus operandi and the only way of existing of this state is by dispossessing, oppressing, and repressing another people. If the only way of Israel to exist is by being an apartheid state, well, we have a problem here. And this is where the conflict is. And Israel could be led by Buddhists, atheists, Muslim, Christians. It wouldn't change. The problem is not with the religious underpinning that Israel maintains. It's with the abhorrent human rights records that Israel has. This protracted impunity of Israel, including in the face of clearly war crimes, crimes against humanity, and plausibly genocide, should have been followed by critical measures taken by the UN Security Council, the General Assembly, lacking which member states should have acted upon their own obligation under international law, not to aid and assist a state which is committing atrocities, a state that maintains an unlawful occupation which is to be dismantled totally and unconditionally by September 2025, according to the General Assembly. In the face of all this, what remains of the international legal system? So we are at a critical juncture. We still have the possibility to step back from the precipice we are staring at. But we need to act in order to change that pattern of lack of accountability. This is why I think that it's important that where democracies or quasi-democracies still exist, ordinary citizens, people from all paths of life make their voice heard to change the political will, to hold our politicians accountable, our institutions accountable, to make sure that, for example, in the UK, you have citizens who are fighting in the Israeli army. You have UK citizens who live in the settlements. How it's possible? These people should be held accountable. British banks, pension funds, and businesses who profit from and trade with the illegal occupation. It's time to hold people accountable. The reason why I have recommended the
Well, yes, it sounds good and we should hold people accountable, but I do want to remind you that, well, the master's tools aren't going to be used to dismantle the master's house. The UN has been, or most bodies of international law have been very clearly weaponized to be used for some people, not others. It is used for the enemies of the West. It is used against, how did they put it? Africans and thugs like Putin. That was the comments that were sent to I believe it was a U.S. representative who said this to a member of the UN, that the International Criminal Court is for Africans and thugs like Putin. So it just shows that it was never about upholding the law. It was never about the rule of law. It was, once again, might makes right. And hey, I have this bludgeon. I have this international law that I can use against you. If you think it applies to me as well, you're very much wrong. And I have veto power, which is already an insane concept. I'll just decide, hey, even if every single person here says that, hey, we just want a ceasefire, we want to stop the killing, is that okay? Is that okay if we just stop killing people? Maybe we can figure stuff out. Can we have a ceasefire? The US could veto that, and then, well, and they have. They've vetoed it 4 times so far, I believe. 4 different opportunities to just stop killing. And they said no every single time. Do you remember when they used to say calling for a ceasefire is anti-Semitic? What the fuck? Stop killing is anti-Semitic? What's wrong with you?
Suspension of Israel's credentials as a member of the United Nations is not even because of the genocide. It's not even because of the apartheid. It's because of the assault that Israel has launched against the United Nations in the past 13 months. It started with a prohibition of the United Nations to have humanitarian aid entering and delivered to the Palestinians in Gaza. And then it continued with the assault on UN premises in Gaza. 70% of them have been severely damaged and in certain cases destroyed. 237 UN staff members have been killed in Gaza alone. UN peacekeepers have been attacked, and they continue to be attacked in Lebanon. And there has been an entire smear campaign against the United Nations, starting with UNRWA, and then the Secretary General who's been declared persona non grata, together with myself, and the General Assembly, and the Human Rights Council, the International Criminal Court. Every one of us has been accused either of being anti-Semite or supporting terrorism, or both. And recently, Israel even passed a law that prevents UNRWA from operating in Israel, which means inability to enter the occupied Palestinian territory. What is this? I mean, this is such an incredibly negative precedent that is going to give carte blanche to destroy the UN wherever they are. But I do think that no one has the hubris that has grown into Israel's veins because of 75 years of impunity that the United Nations have granted to this state. What is striking is the lack of empathy. If you cannot empathize with the Palestinians who have been killed in dozens of thousands and been maimed, their homes have been destroyed, there is nothing to return to, and they've lived for 1 year under constant bombing, moving from one place to another, really on survival mode. How cannot we empathize with them, with their tragedy? This speaks to our racism. The double standard, the selective moral outrage, the selective indignation that we harbor is a reflex and is a function of how we have a hierarchy. Certain lives are more worthy than others. Clearly, the Palestinians do not rank very high. For many, it's dehumanization that leads to the commission of these atrocities and has justified the erasure of Gaza, the killing of Palestinians, including children, and even the torture and rape. This is one case in which we cannot miss the genocidal intent, which must be attributed to the state and its totality of conduct, its totality of crimes against the totality of the Palestinian in the totality of the land that Israel occupies. I like to remember the words of Primo Levi, a Holocaust survivor who took his life because he couldn't survive the apathy of the world he found out of the concentration camps. And he said, monsters are few. Atrocities happen because of the indifference of the many who do not ask questions. Ordinary bureaucrats, ordinary citizens who look the other way around. This has happened during the Holocaust of the Jews. This has happened during the Rwanda genocide, during the Bosnia-Herzegovina genocide. It's more shocking now because with the international framework of human rights norms we have, there should be prevention. And even more shocking now because everything is televised. This is where we are. I hope that this is the last genocide of human history. It could be. If we were only able to understand the critical juncture we are at, to take this moment as an opportunity to learn from the past, to see the past into the present, to understand the warning that was given by Holocaust survivors. Never forget the past, because the forgotten past risks to become a new present. And this is what has happened in many respects, but also knowing that the international legal framework is not ineffective per se, is rendered ineffective by the lack of political will, which is a function of political connivance and interests. It's in our interest as a people, we the people, to make international law not just a promise but a reality, because we will miss it very much, especially us in the West, when human rights will be entirely eroded. In some time, in the coming future, I cannot predict in how long, we will have to come to terms with the fact that we will not be able to say that we didn't know, because this has been a live-streamed 24/7 genocide. We knew in real time what was happening, why it was happening, the excuses that were made by the media and politicians in Israel and beyond across the West. We will have to come to terms with our own conscience. And I think there will be a lot of regrets. But because of that, I say, let's act now to stop the genocide. Look, had it been for independent
UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese, ladies and gentlemen, I could not take a second to pause here. She was just saying everything. She said it phenomenally. Yeah, just phenomenal. I'm checking. It's there. Patreon, nothing. Hoping for like a Twitch, but yeah. I guess he streams on YouTube normally. Yeah. I really had nothing to add to her her comments here. She said it perfectly. I tried to join in. I tried to participate at all, but I absolutely could not. She covered so much. I mean, one thing I did want to bring up was the whole Hollywood shit. You know, where people will literally look at scenes of bombs dropping, of people's homes erased, and they'll say something like, yeah, this is made up, this is fake, they're pretending, you know, like these are the same people that would be Holocaust deniers. These are the atrocity deniers. These are fucking morons. That education has failed them, and they have failed society. When you're looking and you see mass graves like this, bulldozers just throwing sand to cover up these bodies, these homes destroyed. This is what I mean. A lot of people seem to look at the Middle East and see homes like this and be like, ah, yeah, this is just how they live. No, this is how they live because they were bombed. People don't normally live like this. People have homes. They live normally. They have internet and cars and airports and jobs and hospitals and universities. Like everywhere else, they live very normal lives. They go out for entertainment. You know, they go see, you know, to the movies, or they go swimming, or they, you know, play sports. This is not normal. This is not normal for anyone. And if for a second you think this is normal for some people, think about how much you have to You must have had them dehumanized in your head. How much you see them as less than, that they can't possibly live the same way you do. They live in just rubble and shattered homes and stuff like this. They live normal lives. They're not living like this by choice. They're living like this because they've had their homes destroyed. They've been bombed and shot at. They're barely holding on. And then people say like, oh yeah, how come they haven't developed? What are you talking about? They haven't developed. First of all, they've developed just fine. But if you want to say, oh yeah, this social progress, oh yeah, they don't have the Enlightenment values, like people in the West do. First of all, a lot of those values were found, the equality of the sexes was very much so found in the East way before it was found in the West. But this isn't a matter of a fight between East and West when one side has clearly been targeting the other and then trying to wag your finger at them like, oh yeah, how come you're not as pro-LGBTQ as we are? Which, first of all, I agree. People should be, people should let people live freely how they are. But do you think social progress is ever going to take place when these are the material realities you're constantly putting them in? Social progress is important and it needs to happen. I agree. But people's material needs need to be addressed first. And these material needs are constantly and consistently being violated. You're attacking the very foundation, literally the foundation. These homes. People are losing shelter, hospitals. You're cutting off their access to clean food and water. Alright, please start the live stream. I do want to watch the second season of Arcane. I haven't gotten to see it yet. Ooh, some Thankmas stuff. 2 weeks ago, Jack, thank you for doing what you do. Yeah, I realized I was in a cult, fixing Africa's borders. Sorry. Islamabad massacre. I do want to see that, but not yet, I suppose. I'm not super interested in this. I just want to make sure I am subscribed to Novara Media. I want to see their videos pop up. J Plus, subscribed. I should be. Sun from Gaza, 6 days ago. Sure.
When he kills, is he up in the middle of the night?
Let's have a bit of a teaser before we get started.
To avenge his friend and then sleep knowing he has done him right. When the witch turns men to pigs to protect her nymphs, is she going insane? Or did she learn to be colder when she got older and now she saves them the pain? When a god comes down and makes a fleet drown, is he scared that he's doing something wrong? Or does he keep us in check so we must respect him and now no one dares to piss him off? Does a soldier use a wooden horse to kill sleeping Trojans cause he is vile? Or does he throw away his remorse and save more lives with guile? If I became the monster and threw that guilt away, is the Cyclops struck with guilt when
discussed the origins of Israel and Palestine. Let's discuss the genesis of Israel.
Yeah, so in the aftermath of World War II, the Zionist movement finally had a little bit of legitimacy. So Zionism was born in the end of the 19th century as a result of the Dreyfus Affair. So Dreyfus was a Jewish German officer in the French army. It's a little convoluted. He gets busted by the French for being a spy for Germany. The Jewish population in Europe interpreted that as an attack on a Jewish person. It's just as possible, if not as likely, that it was actually an attack on an ethnic German living in France, right? Yeah, there was probably, I'm not denying that there was anti-Semitism in France, there obviously was, but he was also German, so there was probably also a component of anti-Germanness. The reality was he was scapegoated. He had nothing to do with what he was being charged with. And so Zionists like Herzl are born, the Zionist movement is born, Herzl kind of being the father of it, in the Jewish population. It already existed as an idea. We described earlier Napoleon wanting to send Jews to Palestine. So the dominant anti-Jewish ideology was originally called Judenhass in Germany, which meant Jew hatred. The problem with the name was it sounds like an emotional thing as opposed to a logical thing. So they coined the phrase anti-Semitism so that they could say, look, it's not that I have an emotion, I disagree with the presence of Jews in Europe. A component of the anti-Semitic movement was, we just wanted the Jews to leave. The initial ideology didn't want to kill the Jewish population. Obviously, it morphs into that and turns into the Holocaust. But the original goal wasn't to kill them, it was just to evict them. In the same way that there's a portion of the United States population that wants to evict undocumented immigrants, or that the German population.
And then slowly more and more people are shifting towards, hey, let's kill them. Just like you can see it in countries like Poland, who, hey, we want to get rid of these immigrants, which it unfortunately has already turned to, hey, let's kill them, by shooting people at the border, which is a policy they've unfortunately adopted. Or like with Israel, well, which quite from the start has been, hey, let's kill them, but they would be fine if they could completely ethnically cleanse these territories. So it's really no different to the same gross xenophobic tendencies that you found in Europe that were like, hey, these Jews are not like us. We would like to get rid of them. People, if you think Napoleon wanted to send the Jewish population of Europe to Palestine out of love for the Jewish people, or because he was some Zionist who was looking forward to building a Israeli or a Jewish country, you'd be very mistaken. It was very much out of the age-old tradition, anti-Semitism, of wanting to get rid of Europe to purify it from the Jewish population, which is just as fucking gross then as it is at any time. So to say that people wanted to found the Jewish nation out of a love, or the support that came from these non-Jewish people in Europe wanted to create this Jewish nation was out of love for the Jewish people, is very clearly mistaken.
Population wanted to evict undocumented Polish immigrants, or that the British wanted to evict the Polish immigrants, and that's why they voted for Brexit, right? It's that mentality. And so here are these profoundly racist anti-Semites. They coined the phrase anti-Semitism. The Zionist movement goes, maybe they're right. maybe we should leave Europe. Maybe we can't make a good life for ourselves here. Herzl wasn't interested initially in Palestine. He was thinking someplace like Uganda. So in a really weird way, what happened was the creation of a population of white Europeans who wanted to conduct a colonial enterprise, not unlike the colonial enterprise that ended up with Argentina and the United States and Canada and Australia, where there would be a population of white people going to another country and ethnically cleansing and genociding the local population to take it from them. Ultimately, the Zionists really just wanted to go to Palestine. The Balfour Declaration sort of reinforces the idea of going to Palestine. Balfour was a British lord who said that's where they should end up. And then World War II happens. Before World War II happens, a lot of Jews decide to do this, and they begin migrating to Palestine. The Palestinian population welcomed them. They saw this as sort of a natural outcome, in part because historically Jews and Muslims and Christians in the Middle East got along. I mean, you have to remember that even during the Crusades, the native Christian population, if it had been open to the Crusader states in the beginning, totally rejected the Crusader states by the end, and were siding with their fellow Muslims against the Crusaders, and the Jewish population was always against the Crusaders. There was this history of Muslims knew the Jews were their allies. And so the idea of...
Yes, because these people lived together in harmony and peace for years. Sure, was it flawless? I really don't think so. I'm sure there was plenty of discrimination and infighting and shit in there. But to pretend that these Europeans came and fucking made it better in the Middle East for the native people from there is wild.
Jewish Europeans coming to Palestine, the Palestinians welcomed them in. There's account after account after account of Palestinian families letting like Jewish Poles move into their homes and live with them. And then they would do something foolish, like go on vacation and come back. And the Jewish population in the home said, no, this is our home now, and you can't come back into it. And so there was this strange effect of the Palestinians going, yeah, sure, come. The Jewish immigrants to Palestine.
Sorry, this was like 1910, 20s, like...
10s, 20s, 30s. Some of them began to do terrorism. And so there were terrorist organizations formed. They began attacking British assets. They attack hotels, British military bases. So there's a violent element to this. There was also an attempt to simply legally purchase land. And the Zionists ended up purchasing somewhere around 5–10% of Palestine legally. And then in the process, there was attempts to create land confiscation, where they would just go onto a piece of land that nobody owned and begin colonizing it. The World War II happens. There's the Holocaust, which is a catastrophic event, and the world becomes open to the idea that, yeah, there needs to be a Jewish state. The irony is if you're going to create the Jewish state, let's do it. So I'm part Austrian. I want to out that because I'm going to suggest the Middle East peace solution. Let's make Austria a new Israel. Hitler was an Austrian. The German
would make sense to me, right? I mean, it was it was Germany and a lot of European countries that participated and facilitated the Holocaust. So why would you take another people's land to make up for that? Yeah, carve up Germany, carve up Austria, carve up Poland, whatever the fuck you do. That land, those people that did those things, cool. Take their land and make a Jewish state there. In fact, those Jews that were genocided in the Holocaust, those were German Jews. They were German Jews. They were Austrian Jews. They were French Jews. They were Polish Jews. They were Ukrainian Jews. They were Russian Jews. They were Europeans. That was their continent. Those were their countries that turned on them. Those countries should be held accountable. Those countries should pay the price, not some other third party that had nothing to do with it. And if anything, fought against the Nazis.
Germans, Austria is German. They speak German. You can talk to Austrians and go, I'm not German, I'm Austrian, whatever. They're Germans. Germany did the Holocaust. Germany annexed Austria and did the Holocaust. So put Israel in Austria, call it Israel, make the Danube be the boundary between the Austrian area. So instead of calling it the West Bank, you call it the North Bank, right? And put the Austrians there. Vienna will rename it Jerusalem. And then Tyrol will call it the Tyrol Strip. And we'll just shove a bunch of the Austrian population into the North Bank and the Tyrol Strip. But then let's colonize the North Bank and create little walled off sections and ghettoize I think that's the solution, the natural solution. Instead, the world thought, let's do this to Palestine, which is ironic because the Palestinians had nothing to do with the Holocaust in any way, shape, or form. During the war, some Jews from Palestine actually joined a Jewish brigade that fought with the British. The British wouldn't let Palestinians do that because they didn't want Palestinians to have had combat experience. But they did employ Palestinians as stevedores. So Palestinians did serve on the docks, loading and unloading ships, so that white people could fight the war, because the British were nervous about having brown and black people fight. They did. Brown and black people definitely fought for the British. They were just reluctant. They didn't want anybody getting an idea and leading a rebellion when they went back home to Kenya or South Africa or Palestine. Ironically, the British love to put Gurkhas and Maoris into combat situations, but that's a different story. So in the aftermath of all of this, the UN votes to divide Palestine and create an Israel and a Palestine. The vote for the division gave Israel about 55% of Palestine and gave the Palestinians 45%.
Right? So when we divided the land, we had a group of people that constituted 33% of the population. 33. So we're going to give them 55% of the land. Most of those 33 came from just other countries. And hey, the native people that had that 100% of that was their land, and they make up 67% of the population. Yeah, those they get 45% of the land. That makes sense.
So the 55% that was going to go to Israel, that land was to create a Jewish-only state. And then the 45% that was going to go to Palestine would be for Christians, Jews, and Muslims. But the problem was that the land didn't belong to the Jewish population, right? Because they bought 5 to 10% of the land. So basically, you're gifting somewhere between 45 and 50% of the land to the Zionist movement. Well, what about the Palestinians already living there? So the Arabs rejected this. The Israelis invaded.
And that's when they get told, hey, you rejected this. They said no. They said no to these deals. But that's not a deal. That's just like, hey, I'm going to rob you. Okay. The fact that you added okay at the end doesn't mean you're not robbing me. Hey, I'm going to take away your rights. Okay. And if you don't agree, I offered, you didn't agree.
They declare their independence. What it is it's a colonial enterprise. They invade and conquer Palestine. There's a war, the 1948 war, and the Egyptian army goes in with rifles that don't work. They had tanks that were profoundly flawed, like tanks that could only turn in one direction, or the turret didn't turn, or the machine gun didn't work. They were mostly, I don't know if they were mostly, but a lot of them were Stuarts, which were these little itty bitty tankettes. The Israelis were better armed, better equipped. They had more combat experience. There was a bunch of them. There was a huge invasion force. The Jordanians made an attempt to stop this. The Syrians fought. There were Iraqi units that showed up as volunteers. Nobody could stop the Israelis from creating the state. By the time they were done, the Israelis ended up with 78% of Palestine. So the UN division of Palestine created 3 Israeli wedges, one in the middle, one in the northeast, and then one in the south. And then it created 4 Palestinian wedges, one that was about twice the size of the Gaza Strip, where the Gaza Strip is like the remnant of it, one that was probably about 1 1/3 times the size of the West Bank, where the West Bank is, and then one in the northwest. So, like Bethlehem was supposed to be in the West Bank, and then Haifa was supposed to be Palestinian. And by the time the Israelis were done, they had shrunk the West Bank, they had dramatically shrunk the Gaza Strip, and they just took the remaining piece. There were 4 pieces because Jaffa was going to become a little enclave in Palestine that was completely surrounded by Israel and the sea. And then Jerusalem was going to be a neutral zone, and it was going to be administered by the United Nations. That was the plan. And the Israelis, of course, broke the whole thing. Old Jerusalem or East Jerusalem ended up in Jordan. West Jerusalem ended up in Israel. And the Israelis, during the conquest, committed some acts of terrorism. So there's a place called Deir Yassin where they conduct a massacre. And the hope was to cause panic in the Palestinian population, to cause them to run away. And they did. A huge portion of the Palestinian population flees, fearing that Deir Yassin was just the beginning of a series of massacres.
Which it was.
One of the catastrophic ironies of all of this is Yad Vashem, the Holocaust memorial, is across the valley from Deir Yassin. So it's almost like there's the commemoration of a terrible, cruel injustice across the valley from a terrible, cruel injustice. Instead of the world creating more justice, it heaped more suffering on a population of people that had nothing to do with the initial suffering.
Check in on Jorge. How's it looking? Because I really don't want to start like gaming or something, and then he starts the stream. I mean, he's an hour late. Do I not understand what time it's supposed to be? Hold on, let me find a video where he mentions the date.
Here's an update on the Ithaca Saga. First off, holy cow, look how far we've come. First up, the cover art. Now, I can't show it to you yet, but I can draw it for you. And as you guys know, that's where my actual artistic strength is. So, the cover art is very simple, very straightforward. It is Odysseus's hunting bow. Oh my gosh, I can't even draw a hunting bow. I'm terrible at this. And it is resting against a wall. Oh my gosh, you can't even see it. Yeah.
Wow.
If that's not art, I don't know what is. Number 2, release date. When is it coming out? The thing is, I think you guys all know. I think you already know when it's coming out. For anyone who hasn't figured it out yet, the Ithaca Saga will be coming out on the day of the... Number 3, the music. Now, if the Vengeance Saga was supposed to feel super like...
Sorry, I'm here for the date. That's what I'm looking for. What did I just click? In the water. App session. Here's an update on the Ithaca Saga. Yeah, that's the one I just clicked. Let's check out the trailer. Hell yeah. Final saga. Yes, it's the final saga. Yeah, and I know. Oh, it's December 25th. It's tomorrow. It's not today. Yeah. You're not listening. Okay, it comes out officially on December 25th. However, the live stream is always a day earlier. So while yes, it will officially be out tomorrow. Dance Winnion, Yap Session, trailer, Yap Session about the Vengeance Saga again, building anticipation for Penelope.
Let's talk about building anticipation for Penelope. You see, one of the things that I try to do in Epic is put us in the shoes, or should I say sandals, of Odysseus. This means that for the most part, and especially in Act 1, we get the same level of information as Odysseus. This is why we don't have any songs of Poseidon just kind of lurking around planning Odysseus' demise, or why once Athena leaves, for a pretty decent chunk of the story, she's gone. What this also means is that we as the audience, similar to Odysseus, don't really get to see Penelope until we're back in Ithaca for the Ithaca Saga. We hear about Penelope because Odysseus calls out to her every other song, We hear a semblance of her voice when Odysseus is dreaming in Keep Your Friends Close, and we see a siren impersonate Penelope during the song Suffering. And we see Odysseus hallucinating Penelope during Thunderbringer. As the literal end to his suffering, let me take the suffering from... He sees getting back to Penelope as the end to all of his suffering. He's doing all of this to get back to her. And so, that being said, one of the things that I am most excited about in the Ithaca Saga is finally getting to see Penelope in the flesh. And not to spoil it for you, but the transition between the Vengeance Saga and the Ithaca Saga is a subtle one, but it's so cool to me. Because the last thing we see and hear in the Vengeance Saga is Odysseus responding to a rhetorical question with a literal answer. Poseidon asks Odysseus, "After everything you've done, how will you sleep at night?" Steven, I'm so sorry. I can't do your voice like you do. You're so good. And Odysseus responds with, "Next to my wife." That song and the Vengeance Saga ends with that. And then the next thing we hear is Penelope's motif, but done correctly with the right instruments. Not the one from Suffering, which is done with these synthetic vocal sounds. This is the fake one. This is not the real Penelope. This is the real Penelope. So to recap, we hear Odysseus say, "Next to my wife." And then we hear the instruments of the wife, and now we get to see the wife, because that's how the Ithaca Saga starts. With a viola and a string ensemble. If you can't tell, I love...
And the greatest song of the entire musical so far. I mean, as far as I've heard. The challenge is amazing. The challenge is a genuine masterpiece.
Love the character of Penelope. And if you think that build-up is cool, just wait till you hear Song 40, particularly the intro. The build-up with the strings in that, it goes crazy. Anyway, so I do a lot of work to build anticipation for Penelope so that the moment that we see her, it feels earned and it feels larger than life. It feels special. It's kind of similar to how we only see Poseidon twice throughout the show, but his presence is so powerful because both times he just shows up and causes damage. Or how we only see Hermes twice, but each time that Hermes shows up, it rejuvenates us from all of the other dark, intense moments throughout the rest of the show. Anyways, I'm so excited for you guys to finally get to see and hear Penelope. She is one of my favorite characters, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I get super emotional in Penelope's song.
There it is. That's where I got the misinformation. The Ithaca Saga listening party will be on December 24th, 9. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. I thought it was 9 a.m. I thought it was 9 a.m. Oh my god, I am so off. I am off by 12 hours. Oh, no. No. And I'm sitting here thinking he's late. I'm just an idiot. Oh. Okay. Okay. Hold on. Let me figure this out. How is this gonna work exactly? How's this gonna work? So if it's 9 p.m. Eastern, okay? It's 9 p.m. Eastern. What? No. It's 9 p.m. It's 21. Which is... Just give me a sec. I'm being stupid. Well, I do hope you enjoyed the stream. I fucked up. But I will. I'll be making another stream. What can I do? Oh my god, I can't believe. I'll see you in 12 hours, I guess. Well, 11 hours, I suppose. I'll see you in 11 hours. Hope you had fun. Bye.